I'm doing this. 1 minute.
Thank you for your devotion to this, Nomi. It's unbelievable.
You know, Bezrat Hashem, with tefillos of Am Yisrael and receiving clarity in all this Torah. Hashem should give us clarity in being able to just, Zahava loves Riverton. Hashem should just give us clarity to always just attach ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to only want Hashem. And you know what? Sometimes the shtuyas of this world get so in the way. And then when you're so exposed to such beautiful rebbitzins and rabbis and the most beautiful Torah teachers, and having the schus to have that, it's mamish such a schus to be able and to do this together and to daven together. You know, I have to tell you that everywhere I go now, I want to tell you that we're, as a group in our tefillas, we're becoming so well known. Do you know that my husband's lawyer, Israeli lawyer in Israel, heard from somebody else about the Nishmas group, about the tefillas that the Nishmas group does. So
Hashem wants us to hear that. Nomi, Hashem wants you to hear that. This is
all of us.
If it's
Baruch
not going
Hashem.
viral here, it's going viral in Shemayim.
Amen. And you know that on our, you know that we have like way over 250,000 views on all the Torah. So just think that how many hundreds of thousands of people we have disseminated Torah out to the world, to women, isn't it?
Amazing.
It's a schus. Thank you, Hashem. So I want to thank Esty. Thank you, Esty, for bringing in Mrs. Shani Mendlowitz. So Mrs. Shani Mendlowitz is the Menahelet of Bais Yaakov Seminary of Montreal, as well as an adult lecturer and Kallah teacher. She has also written various series of articles for Mishpacha Magazine, and we as a group feel so honored and privileged to have her speak for us. And I'm just going to, I'm going to take myself off, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Mendlowitz. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much.
Do you hear me and you see me?
So we don't see your full face.
Okay. Is that better?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you know Shelley Mandelkorn?
Sure.
She's a very old good friend of mine, actually.
Oh, wonderful person.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So I'm good. You see me? You hear me?
A little bit more.
You could move back a little bit back,
back.
Shani, because it's like you. Oh, I see. You must be lower. The chair must be lower than the computer or something. Let me.
So I should raise my computer.
It's fine.
Let me see how I can do this. I'm looking.
You can also just tilt the screen up. You could just tilt it if you can tilt. There you go.
Okay. Good.
Thank you. Thanks,
Perfect.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. It was very inspiring to hear the Tehillim and every other part of it. I come to you on a cold, snowy day in Montreal. You've warmed me up. I'm here in my office in our seminary building, and thank you for the zachos. So I titled it, the talk today, a sneak preview, the energy of Chanukah, and just to explain to you what I mean by the energy of Chanukah. So we have an understanding that special days in the calendar bring special energies, or let's call them emanations from above. And if we tap into these special opportunities, I almost like to call them like freebies. It's like a freebie. We can grow more easily in that particular midah or in that particular vein. I'll just give an example. We're told that the night of the Seder, Leil Shel Pesach, is a time when we can grow in Amunah. It resonates with us more readily, more easily than any other time of the year. So it's almost like it's like this low-lying fruit that we can just like pluck and use for ourselves. And perhaps we can say that Sukkot is a time for bitachon, et cetera, et cetera. So my question today is, like, in advance of Hanukkah, it's good to talk about this a little bit before Hanukkah so we can prepare ourselves, we can ready ourselves. What are the energies of Hanukkah? What are the freebies that Hashem is sending down to us that we can opportunity to grow and to use that energy of the Yom Tov? So I'm going to, in order to answer this, I'm going to make some suggestions. I'm going to take us to the Chanukah then. We're going to talk about Chanukah then, Bayamim Hahem, Chanukah today, Bisman Hazeh. So let's first talk about when we think about Chanukah, the year of the Chanukah miracle, right? The year that everything happens. So what are the images? Of course, we're thinking Beis HaMikdash, and we're thinking the Hashmonaim in their battle against the Greek-Syrian army. We're thinking about 1 flask of oil that burned for 8 days. Let's talk about what the common theme of those items are. Let's talk about the Bais HaMikdash. Bais HaMikdash, as we know, is a place, not just a place to bring karbanos. It was a place where when you walked into the Bais HaMikdash, and by the way, this is why we mourn on Tisha B'Av, not so much for the beautiful edifice, although it was that also, but we're mourning for the fact that there was a place on earth where the Shekhinah rested with us in almost like a tangible way. So when you walked into Bais HaMikdash, you felt the presence of Hashem. All the, people have theological questions, all kinds of doubts, or we're wondering about certain things. All of that fell away. No more questions like that. You came in and you felt the presence of Hashem, almost like tangibly. Pirkei Avot tells us that there were 10 miracles that when you entered the Bais HaMikdash, you witnessed 10 miracles. One of them was Umdin Sefufim Umishtachavim Revachim, which means that they stood crowded. Everyone went, let's say, an Ola L'Regel on one of the Chagim. So you went up to the Bais HaMikdash and they stood shoulder to shoulder. It was so crowded. Umishtachavim Revachim, and when it came time to bow down, when they heard the name of Hashem, Shem HaMeforash, they prostrated themselves on the ground, and suddenly there was enough room for everybody. So let's understand what this means. When they stood, so how much floor space do you need when you stand? You need the floor space of your 2 feet. Actually, it even says that there were so many people that their feet didn't even touch the ground. They kind of like were suspended in air. But anyway, so that's how much floor space. And when a person prostrates himself, bows down on the ground, of course, he needs a space enough for his entire body. So this nest that they were omdim sefufim u'stachavim revachim, I want to explain to you what that means. It's not that the walls expanded. Okay, so that's not what happens. Somehow, in the same square footage, there was enough space for them to bow down. There are some miracles, some nisim that we could picture. Maybe we could say we could picture Kriyas Yamsuf. We could picture the splitting of the sea. It was a miracle, and I don't know how water stands straight like that in its liquid form, but I could draw a picture of it. Some people have a beautiful picture in there, over their couch of Kriyas Yamsuf. They're very popular. I could draw it. This is a nace where where you can't picture it, you can't draw it. It defied all logic. It defied all laws of physics, all spatial physics. Another example, in the Bais HaMikdash, Chazal say, how does it go? Chazal say, Makom ha'aron eino min hamida. The place of the aron did not take up any space. So what does that mean? So we know that the aron, the holy ark, where the luchot were, where the Sefer Torah was, either the kruvim, the winged figures on top of it, stood in the holiest place in the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies. Now, Chazal tell us like this: if you take a look at the dimensions of the aron, and you take a look at the dimensions of the room, of the chamber of Kodesh Kodashim, no matter how many times you crunch the numbers, it doesn't add up. Somehow, it doesn't look like the aron had room in there, but yet it did. It physically was there. The flask of oil that lasted for 8 days, that also defied logic. And the Hashmonaim, the 13 people, were told that it's laughable. 13 people took on the army of the greatest world power of the time. What do all of these phenomena, what do all of these miracles have in common? So we call this the phenomenon of muat machazik es hamaruba. A small item or a small space holds the smallest entity can hold so much. So the Bais HaMikdash, somehow the walls held more than they should have when everyone bowed down. The flask of oil lasted long. It was a little bit. Somehow it held many more days. The 13 Hashmonaim, they were, again, laughably a muat, a minority. And somehow they expanded to be much more, and they were able to take on the whole army. And the same thing with the Aron in the Kodesh Kodashim. The phenomenon is called muat ha-machazit et ha-meruba. You would think it's so small. Somehow it's machazik. It can hold something that's great. It expands in a very miraculous way. I want to take this theme that something small can actually become more, encompass more, produce more than we would imagine, and now go to Bizman Hazeh, to Chanukah in our days. So Chanukah in our days, so what am I picturing? There's no longer Beis HaMikdash. I'm not looking at the army of the Hashmonaim. What am I looking at? I'm looking at one menorah in one home, by one window. I'm looking at a flame that lights and it goes upward. I'm looking at the rule of, according to Beis Hillel, that we light the flames in ascending order from 1 to 8. So the Chanukah then is very different than the Chanukah today. What I want to demonstrate today to you, Be'ezrat Hashem, is that the smallness of our Chanukah can be a meruba, can be very, very great. So this is what we have. We have the Rav Hutner, Zatzal. He speaks about the fact that the Nes of Chanukah, the Chazal look at it like Hashem gave us this unbelievable miracle. And what was it all about? It was to prepare us for the long Galus Edom, the long painful Galut that we still find ourselves in. In other words, Chanukah was the last of the public Nisim, last of the Nisim Gluyim. And it set the tone, like Hashem knew that after that happened during the times of the second Beis HaMikdash, that there would be Chorban, there would be Galut, and it would be long, difficult, protracted. We don't have to belabor that, right, my friends? And so Chanukah was able to prepare us for us in many different ways, and there's no time today to discuss exactly all the different aspects, but I want to share with you one line from Rav Hutner's writings. He writes, the menorah moved from Beis HaMikdash into the private home. Now, to be honest, it's not the same menorah. The menorah in Beis HaMikdash had 7 branches. The Chanukah has 8 branches. But the idea that he's saying is that, we have a name for a private home. It's called the Mikdash Ma'at, a miniature Beis HaMikdash. And the understanding is that just as the Beis HaMikdash was a place for the Shekhinah to rest, so similarly, the everybody's home can become a place for Hashrat Hashchina. If you've ever been at a Shever Bracha speech, and the bracha that they give, the Chassan and Kallah, they give a bracha. May the Shekhinah always rest in your home. May you build a home that's a place for the Shekhinah, and so on. So we're saying that everybody's home can be holy ground, can be holy soil. It may be a muat, it may be one individual home, small family, a couple rooms and walls and a roof, but it can be as great as the Beis HaMikdash. And let's see how. So the theme that something small can become great is very much a theme of Chanukah. Let's think about it. Chanukah happens, Rav Pinkus tells us, it's an ordinary weekday. It's not Chol HaMoed. It's Chol. Yeah, we have special tefillos. We say Hallel, but there's no Musaf, right? Everyone goes to work on Chanukah. There's no Isser Malacha. There's no shul ceremony. What do I mean by that? We're not doing hakafos like on Simchas Torah. We're not reading the Megillah on Purim. It's a very family-oriented, home-oriented Yom Tov. Yes, there's a minhag to light the menorah in the shul, but the mitzvah is near Ishu Beis, that everybody lights it in their own home. So we have an ordinary home, an ordinary weekday. It becomes not so ordinary. It becomes a place where the menorah, which is reminiscent of the Beis HaMikdash, moves into our home. Our home is elevated. The pattern that something small or ordinary can become something great is reflected very much in the fact that we light the candles. This is from a Chaim Friedlander. We light the candles in ascending order from 1 to 8. We may think to ourselves that we're so diminished. And we do have a concept. Chazal tell us, Hadoros holchim umismatim, the generations, as we come further and further from Matan Torah, from Mamad Har Sinai, so each successive generation is smaller in stature than the one before that. Okay, it's a famous story, just tell too quickly, of Yaakov Kamenetsky, the Rosh Yeshiva of Shira Torah V'das in America. Zatzal, he was on a plane once. He was elderly, and his son or sons were attending him. And he was sitting there, an official in the Israeli government. And after watching for hours how his sons took care of him, this person could not help but turn to Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky and say to him, I'm just wondering, how did you accomplish that? My sons, I'm lucky if they call me once or twice a month. How did you merit to have children that are so mechabed you, that give you such honor, and they're serving you? How did you create that family dynamic? And Rabbi Yaakov answered in a way that only a Gadol b'Yisrael could answer, such an incisive answer. He said to him, in my world, we have a rule that as you go further and further away from Mamad Har Sinai, the generations are somewhat diminished. In your world, perhaps, if you believe in the theory of evolution, so our ancestors were monkeys or were primitive people, and every successive generation is greater. So my sons look at me like I come from a world that is nobler and greater than, and they have respect for me. Your sons may just look at you like you're closer to the monkeys, but we're closer to Mamad Har Sinai. Beautiful, beautiful answer. Okay, so that's the rule we have, is that as we become more and more diminished. Yet, we have also a demand that Chazal tell us that every person has to ask himself the following question and live according to that creed. Masai yagiu ma'asai l'masai avosai Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov. He has to ask himself, when will my deeds reach the level, attain the madrega of my avot, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? The person has to ask himself the question, like, am I coming close to them? So we have like two opposite dynamics here. We're diminished. We're a generation lower, further away from Mamad Har Sinai. On the other hand, the possibility is for a person to up his game, to make elevated choices, to go in ascending order, and to be reached, or at least to help himself try to reach to grasp the madreg of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. These are two opposing views, and we hold both of them. And the machlokas between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai about how we light the Chanukah candles echoes these two opposing views. And halacha kebeis Hillel. The halacha is that we may be diminished. On the other hand, we have to look at ourselves like, to a certain degree, our generation is heroic. Yes, because we face a world of atheism, immorality, degenerate behavior, and if we're still Shomer Torah mitzvos, we are heroes. We are people that are going in ascending order. So the message of Chanukah the energy of Chanukah is that we have tremendous potential. The muad could be machazik es hamaruba. Something small, like in the Bais Hamikdash, can attain something great, can hold something great. So a home can be a mikdash ma'at, completely with a menorah in it. A weekday can be Chag Chanukah. A generation can be great because of their nisyonot, that they can approach somehow the level in a different way, in a different form, of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So I want to spend a few moments, time that we have left, to understand exactly, like, how do we do that? How do we hold on to that dynamic of lifting ourselves up to become more than we are, to meet a potential that seems improbable, to become the muat hamachazik es hamaruba. Our small selves can expand and contain and attain so much. There's a pasuk in Mishlei that closely mirrors this theme, the theme of the ascending order of the Neiros Chanukah. The pasuk is Orach Chaim Lamala Lamaskel Lama'an Sor Misha'ol Mata. Pasuk says like this: Orach Chaim, the path of life, is Lamala, is upward. Lamaskel, for a wise person. The wise person tries that during his life, he's Lamala. It's like that word we can use for the Neiros Chanukah, right? We're always going one higher the next day. His mantra, his direction of his life is Lamala. Laman Sor Misha'ol Mata, so that he can avoid falling down to the Sheol. Sheol means either the grave or Gehenna. In other words, if you're always trying to up your game, make elevated choices, take the higher road, so then you will avoid falling down into the Sheol. Now, the Vilna Gaon looks at this pasuk in Mishlei as like there's two opposing statements here. It's like either you're Lamala or you're going down to the Sheol. And what he says is that that's really the truth of it. If a person is not always growing, if you attain a certain level and you stay there, you don't really stay there. You actually fall. Just to make it clear, we're saying that the difference between that spiritual gains are unlike material gains. When I had $10,000 and I put it in the bank, that $10,000 remains in the bank for me. It doesn't diminish. I mean, I hope I get more interest, but at the very least, the $10,000 remains static. What the Vilna Gaon is telling us is that when you're talking about ruchnius, when you're trying to grow, the $10,000 of growth will become diminished if you don't keep at it. Somehow the level we've reached becomes stale, becomes like we don't feel it so much anymore. And so the pasuk in Mishnah is reminding us, Lamala, you always have to go up. You know, the famous mashal we use is that a person you're on an escalator, and if you're going on an escalator, it's as if we're on an escalator that's going down, because the default position of man, as we see in society around us, is to fall. So if you're on that down escalator, if you stay in one place, you're going to go down. The only way to keep rising is to keep rising. So that's the idea, that Orach Chaim Lamala, the direction has to be Lamala. Always make elevated choices. I want to tell you another angle in this pasuk, a bit of a different understanding. Another way to understand it is that the pasuk is saying like this: every little bit of Lamala, of doing a little bit better today than I did yesterday, is inestimable, and it's like if you're a little higher today, then in comparison to what you were yesterday, it's a difference between the Sheol, the nether world, and Lamala. Let me explain to you what that means by taking an example again from money. Material assets. So let's say there's two people. One makes $100,000 a year, and the other one makes $105,000 a year. So although the difference in income is $5,000, we probably would say that really the difference is not that much when you go into those numbers. We would say these two people earn about the same amount of money. They're about the same financial bracket, tax bracket. I mean, a collector that's coming to their house would expect about the same from these two people. $5,000 is not so much, it's not such a big difference. Let's say I earned $100,000 and I had opportunity to take a second job where I would earn $5,000. It could be I wouldn't jump at it. You know, maybe I would have to really weigh that. Like, is $5,000 so much that I should, maybe I'm taking too much time away from my family. Maybe the effort is too great. So in materialistic values, $100,000, $105,000 is roughly equivalent. Not so when we're talking about ruchnius. 5,000 more in ruchnius is a difference between the Sheol, the netherworld, the grave, the Gehenna, whatever, and Lamala. In other words, we're saying like this: every little gain, and this is very, very encouraging, I think, to every one of us, and those of us who are still raising children, who are dealing with students, it's important to remember that, to internalize it, and get the message across to them, that every little improvement is valuable. In other words, the man who learns another 10 blot of Gemara is not just a man who knows an extra 10 blot of Gemara. We could say about him, he's a Talmud Chacham of a different caliber. Okay? The person who davens a little better today than she did yesterday, a little bit more kavanah, it's a whole different tefillah. An extra chesed that we do could be transformational to us. Again, the pasuk is saying, if you do a little bit lamala, then yesterday it was like the Sha'ol. Every little bit catapults you into an entirely different place in your growth, entirely different category. So to sum up what we've been saying, and then I'm going to close. So the energy of Chanukah is, let's call it lamala. It's the ability to transcend ourselves, to transcend our limitations, to be the muat, to be, yes, a small entity, but I can make choices, and every little bit lamala is making me a muat hamachazik as hamaruba. The Chashmonaim didn't say, but we're only 13 people. They didn't say it's impossible. Somehow they took on the army and Hashem helped them. The Rav Pinkus says that the worst feeling a person can have, the most destructive emotion is the feeling of katnus, of smallness. Chanukah tells us that no one is small. There's not one home in Kallah Yisrael that cannot have a menorah and be like a Bais HaMikdash. There's not one person that can do a little bit better, and that's Lamala. The message of Chanukah is we go in ascending order. We're able, so again, we moved from the Bais HaMikdash and the miracles in the Bais HaMikdash, the little flask of oil that lasted for 8 days, and we say we may think of ourselves as we're a little flask of oil. Who am I? What am I? My family, my accomplishments, my home, my house. And it can become more, it is more, it will be more with a little bit of effort of lamala in ruchniistic currency that means so much. It takes us to an entire different level. So let's end by saying that as we look ahead to Chanukah and as we wonder what can we gain and what are like the low-lying fruit that we can pick. What are the freebies of Chanukah? So one of the freebies is the feeling of lamala, of how great we can become with our own efforts and of course with Hashem's siyata dishmaya. That's the ruach, that's the energy in the air in Chanukah. So let's just hope that in Mirz Hashem we're all able to tap into that. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you for the inspiration you gave me. And may HaKadosh Baruch Hu bench your efforts, and may he always look at us as people who are trying to elevate ourselves, take the higher road. May we always be motivated and encouraged to do that. Thank you so much.
Amen. I want to tell you, thank you so much. This was so mesmerizing. It was just so beautiful and so mesmerizing. I was like literally holding on to every single Torah and every word that you were giving. It was so fascinating what you brought out. I want to ask you something. It was really amazing. It's so interesting because, first of all, I never knew that there was only 13 Chashmonaim. I'm like in shock.
It's shocking. It's mind-boggling.
I never knew that. And what's interesting is what you brought out about the flask. You can take it even to a deeper level, like what you brought out, like we're not so small as the flask. We can be bigger. We can be greater. And the lighting of the candles through the 8 days reinforces that concept, right? Like it's showing us, we start with the 1, we're small, and we go to the 8. So it completely reinforces that whole idea of this, realizing that every step is greater. And Chanukah shows us that, the lighting of the candles. And what's also very interesting, what I thought about what you said is, Chanukah is the concept of all these miracles that we saw, the things that made no sense, things that, as you said in the beginning, which was so fascinating, when you said how it was like everything potentialized, right? You had we had this, and then it potentialized into that. And when you look at Chanukah, it's one of the chagim that even secular Jews keep, right? It's
yeah.
Isn't that right? Isn't it such an interesting thing?
Yeah,
it's
right,
like
right.
It's in a way we can look at it and think of the potential, and we can think of the miracles, the nisim of Chanukah, and almost when you see all these people keeping it, it's almost the potential and the nisim that we can see within Am Yisrael. It's unbelievable.
Right. Like everyone, and you're saying like everyone can have a chelek in it. I also want to mention that Chanukah is very much the motif of darkness and light. You know, it occurs. It's the only chag that occurs at the end of the month when the moon is waning. Okay,
Right.
and it occurs, and the only chag that we have in shutting off my phone here. Only chag that we have in the winter months, at least in the northern hemisphere, right? And
Right.
like when dark comes early, when it's so like in a certain way, it's like it could seem like depressing, cold, dark. Again, like the moon is waning. On the other hand, look how we can light a candle in the darkness, right? And when you light a candle, the flame always goes upward. That's like lamala. We say that a person's neshama. There's a pasuk that says Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. And neshama is striving upward. So that's a lamala model. Okay.
Wow. It's such a beautiful concept, the lamala. It's also such a beautiful concept how you explained how that whole pasuk, it was so beautiful, the way that when we're stagnant, right, when we don't grow, that it's not just about not growing, it's about that we actually fall. It's such an amazing concept, that concept that you brought out. I love that.
We can all experience that though, right? Like if you're stagnating, it's not even that you're in the same place. Somehow like you're almost like losing a taste for what you've accomplished before. Like person always has to grow and like make elevated choices, I think is the way to say it,
Right.
Every small elevated choice we make, that's what I'm trying to say, is a big thing. And it really helps us rise higher. We can accomplish more than we think, and there's nothing small in ruchnistic accomplishments.
Right.
Okay.
And I love the analogy of how you compared the making of the money and how that grows versus or what happens with that versus our spiritual growth. It was such a beautiful comparison. I loved it. I loved this whole shiur. It was so beautiful. It was
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It was really, it was like it was a whole different things that I learned so much from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
It was beautiful. I just want to tell you, Lamala has an ayin in it, right?
Yes.
Right. So I was thinking as you were speaking, I'm like, wow, amelus. Like it is true. We have to put in some amelus in order to grow.
Very nice.
That was really beautiful. Yeah, I really also enjoyed you. Thank you for being with us.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. I'm going to sign off now. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Doing good things. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.